After a difficult loss yesterday to Catalina Foothills, the Buena Fighting Colts still have so much talent and so much to play for over the course of this season, as they are now 7-4. But at the helm of the Buena Fighting Colts is a first-year head coach, and that is why we are here today on this episode of Coach's Corner, brought to you by the Morse Automotive Group, Sierra Vista, and Cochise County, backed by Morse. Tommy Fernandez, man, it is so great to talk to you.
Yeah, nice
thank
to
you
meet
so
you.
much for
Yep,
taking the
thank you.
time to talk about this. Wanted to just kind of get an idea on the Coach's Corner. We want to learn about you. We want to learn about your style. We want to learn about how long you've been a part of this program and things like that. But I want to start with you. When you were on a field like this in high school, what sports did you play as you were growing up?
I mainly played basketball and baseball.
Okay.
Is kind of what I played. Baseball was more of a natural sport to me. It just came natural to me. I didn't have anybody to teach me and anybody to work with me outside of when I got to a team and there was a coach there.
Yeah.
That was my learning experience. Everything was individual, just myself. It was just all natural. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew how to do it. I was pretty fortunate. I wish I had somebody like me, honestly, to do the weights, to do the speed training, to, a little bit better hitting technique kind of stuff. But it is what it is. I found a lot of love in it, and here I am, being able to teach it.
Well, exactly. I mean, how were you able to pick up those things? I mean, was it just research on your own? Or
well,
finding things?
baseball was just a love for me. I watched baseball. I just watched baseball, and I'm a huge Braves fan.
Well, nobody's perfect. It's okay.
No, growing up in California, TBS was the station to watch. I got
What part
home,
of California?
Central Coast, Gonzales, California. The biggest city next to it is Salinas, California, where Fort Ord was. So that's where I grew up. But getting home, the Braves were on at 4:30 every single day.
So not an A's fan, or
well, so I did go to A's games. My uncle took me to A's games, stuff like that.
Or a Giants fan, or anything like that?
No, sir. No, let's not talk about that. No. But A's would be about the closest to any other ball club that I would come close to cheering for, right? But the Braves was always my team because of TBS. I know it's weird, right?
No, Superstation. I mean, again, like you said, those games were on every afternoon.
They were on every afternoon.
And having it on the Pacific time, it's like 3 o'clock right in the afternoon, right there. It's right when you get home from school.
Yep.
So what were the things that you were able to focus on throughout your high school career? Were you able to take that to the next level and get an offer for college?
I did not get an offer. What I got a walk-on offer, right? But not any type of stipend or anything like that. I did go play at a small JUCO there in Salinas, California, called Hartnell College. I got to play there. But
the pride of Hartnell College. Come on.
Things didn't quite work out for me. I knew they were going to work out for me, and I had this personal doctor. Live in a small town, everything's kind of personal, right? And I go to see him for something that was going on. I go see him, and he sits there, and he always had personal conversations with me. He knew my family, and he says, "Hey." He says, I just don't think baseball is going to work out for you. I mean, I knew that, but do you want to hear that? No, you don't.
No, of course
right?
Not as a young person.
But it's okay. And he says, why don't you go to school? He says, that's where you're going to make your money. Go to school. And I said, well, I grew up financially challenged, so that was kind of hard. There were things for me, but he says, give me a second. He walks out, comes back in, and gives me a check for $12,000 to start off school.
What?
So he made my decision fairly easy, and then you go through the application process of getting free money, Pell Grant, all that good stuff, right? So I decided to go off to business school, which was there in Salinas. So I went there, got my associates through there, and my challenges went through on and did what I had to do. But that's kind of how it ended for me right there, But for somebody to open that door for me was eye-opening. And to take that opportunity and for him to open
what an amazing opportunity.
Oh, it was a great opportunity. And I wouldn't look back, and I wouldn't say I would do it any other way because it was awesome. And I did get an associate's out of it. I got a bachelor's later on, but that's where it kind of started for me, right? So yeah, it was awesome.
What was the part of the journey that ended up, you finished college, you get your business degree, and did you start work right away, or was baseball always still kind of there as an itch to scratch?
Well, so that was, everybody says get a degree, it's going to be easy to find work, and it actually wasn't. It wasn't. So I actually moved back to Texas, where my mom had moved back to after I finished graduating. Try to find work there, couldn't find work there. Traveled to Houston with some family members, tried to find work there, didn't work out there either. And I'm like, man, I mean, I'm looking for a career. I'm not just looking for a job, right? I'm looking for a career. It just didn't pan out for me. Eventually, a few years later, I just decided to join the military.
Okay.
And
what
the
branch?
military, Army.
Okay.
And that worked out for me. Decided to get out and, brought me here. And this is where I started my career, and that's where I'm still at right now. So, and I'm fortunate enough to where it allows me to do this.
I was going to say, I mean, how do you divide that out between, the full-time job in the military and then being the full-time baseball coach?
Well, I start early. Let's just say that. I start really early. So, the flexibility is there for me. So it allows me to get here and be a part of this right here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not the only one that does it. There's a lot of people that work on post that coach here at Buena. And so that flexibility is there.
So what was it that caused you to have the opportunity to become an assistant coach here 7 years ago and be under a legacy coach like Mark Schaefer to be here? What was it that said, you know what, I think I want to do this. I want to be a coach at Buena and coming onto Mark Schaefer's staff?
Well, so it was driven by my son is kind of how it was driven. And the only reason it was driven that way was because my son could play.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I was ever going to coach anything, was I'm like, okay, if my son can play, I'm going to coach, right? Because I'm not going to do this daddy ball thing or whatever. And so that's kind of what happened, was I realized my son could play, so I felt like I could be a coach. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of how that came about. He was in 8th grade. I came onto the staff before he was even here. Coach Schaefer gave me that opportunity. And I started off on the JV and then, eventually moved up. As my son left, I remained and was part of the varsity club and just continued on. And once he decided to retire, I just felt it was an opportunity for me to apply to try to keep the continuity for these boys here. I thought it would be good for them. So that's kind of how that happened.
We're talking to Coach Tommy Fernandez here, Buena High School head baseball coach on this episode of Coach's Corner, brought to you by the Ed Morse Automotive Group, Sierra Vista, and Cochise County, backed by Morse. Definitely a conversation you want to share. You want to make sure you share this conversation around so the community can learn more about the amazing things happening here in the Buena baseball program. Coach Tommy, so you end up taking the reins. This is your first year as the full-time head coach at Buena High School. You've been here for 7 years. You've seen players come through, even to the point where some players on this year's team that we just saw yesterday literally have already signed their letters of intent to play at the next level. Who are those players? Where are they going to? And what does that feel like, knowing that you were able to put that into them and watch them grow to the point where they would be able to sign those letters that maybe you weren't able to do when you were a young person?
Well, I mean, honestly, all the credit really goes to them. They put in all the hard work. They're the ones that do this stuff day in, day out, right? We can sit here and say, do this, do that, but it's like leading a horse to water, right? You can take them there, but you can't make them drink it, right? So it's the same thing. So all the credit goes to those kids. We just try to put a foundation in place, whether it was me, Coach Schaefer, their parents, or whoever it was. There's a foundation that's got to be set, and they just got to build off of that foundation. That's kind of what they did. But like I said, Austin Cushman, he's going to Cochise College just recently.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, just recently. Many people may not know, but he had a scout out watching him last week. When we played Cocoquino out of Flagstaff, there was a Padres scout who contacted me over that past weekend and wanted to take a look at him.
San Diego Padres.
San Diego Padres, yes.
Wow.
Yes. And, we talked about it and stuff like that. And after it was over, I talked to the scout and I said, what do you think? He loves everything that he sees out of him, the way he throws his pitches, the mental aspect, which is always the hardest part of the game to pick up, is the mental part, not the physical. It's always the mental part. And he controls that fairly well, regardless of the situation. And he liked what he saw, and he kind of gave a round of where he could be. Had a couple of concerns, but we addressed those concerns, and I think he's pretty comfortable. So I think he'll be getting a workout here in the future and kind of getting looked at a little bit more, and we'll see where that goes. But for right now, his commitment is to Cochise.
Exciting.
So we'll see if there's other opportunities that arise for him. The other one is Nate Whitworth going to the Merchant, Academy. Yeah. And, he's had other services looking at him, played good ball over the summer.
Is that affiliated with the military? Is it?
So it is, but it's
adjacent
not. But it's not specific to any particular military, right? But it gives him that opportunity as he's still looking to go to flight school and overall become a pilot.
Yeah.
That's really his ultimate dream. But it still gives him the avenue to fulfill something that he still has inside of him, right? Which is baseball.
Yeah.
He could have gone anywhere, honestly. He could have, but the academy, the service part, to serve his country is more in his heart than to play baseball. Yeah. But he can still play baseball. So he gets both. out of it. And then the other one is Angel. He's going to Emporia State. He's
Emporia State located
in Kansas. Yeah. I don't remember what city in Kansas, but it's in Kansas somewhere.
That's where I played college football in Kansas.
So, so he's going out there. He's going to follow a few other kids that I've been able to get committed out that way as well.
Yeah.
I look forward to that and kind of see what he has to bring to the table. He's got a lot of tremendous talent. And he's another hard worker as well. As most of these kids are, right? None of them try not to work hard, but it's just one of those things where baseball, it's just kind of, you just have it or you don't have it. It's just straightforward. So yeah, they get that opportunity. And then
there's one more, right?
Yeah, we had another one, Brandon Brown. I don't remember
Double
the name.
B.
Yeah, Double B. I don't remember the name of the school, but he just recently got an offer as well to play, and it's also out in Kansas, an NAIA out of Kansas. So again, what I try to preach to these kids is it doesn't matter what level college of baseball it is. It's 7% of the country, not the U.S., but we're talking the country. Yeah. Asia, Cuba, all those guys that come here to play baseball. You're still competing against those guys. So to be part of that 7% is special. Yeah. And people don't understand that. 7%, people might think it's a big number. It's actually not. It's a really small number when you look at the big scale of things. And so it's quite an achievement.
That is absolutely an amazing achievement. Thinking about you have these guys right now that have already committed or signed the papers to say, yes, I will go to play college. Having them here, I wanted to ask you, just listening to you talk about these players, it shows to me, and I'm sure to everybody who's watching this right now and hopefully sharing this around, it shows to me the kind of heart you have for these student athletes here. You seem like a player's coach. Is that how you would describe yourself? Or, what's your intensity level? I was watching on third base last night, and there were some intense moments there. But is it because that relationship is there with these young student athletes?
So, I'm a passionate guy for sports. I love sports, and it's a competitor in me. It's a passion that's just driven. But you have to have that fine line of these young minds that you have out here, right? Because you don't want to be too over passionate, too over powerful, because it could shut them down depending on who it is, right? And so there's that fine line that you have to have with these kids. And I don't know if I'm a player's coach or not. I really don't. I receive fairly good, feedback, so I can't answer that. Honestly, it's really hard to talk about myself, but I just try to coach and just have a passion for what I do.
Well, let's talk about your inspirations. First of all, let's talk about Mark Schaefer. Two words that are iconic at Buena High School. He was a coach when I played at Buena High School. So, been around for 40 years, 50 years. I'm not even sure how many, thinking about him in the coaching world. What is it like to be the one who he passes the torch to? Out of all the years, all the decades, all the generations of high school players and students and coaches that have come through this program, you're the one who gets the torch passed to you. Talk about that legacy that Mark Schaefer helped build and how you plan continuing it to build it in the future.
Well, Coach Schaefer, he was very detail oriented. He was really a really good game planner. And he served the boys really, really well. And he was a great mentor to the kids. He was also a gamer. He was a competitor kind of guy. And that's kind of what drove these kids a little bit. You know what I mean? That's kind of what helped this program a lot. And so, I'm not here to replace anybody. I'm just kind of here to kind of do what I have to do for these boys. Is kind of the way I look at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't look at myself taking over anybody's shoes or trying to fulfill somebody else's shoes. I just try to be me and just try to go about business and just try to do it as best as I can. Because for somebody that's been here that long, you're not going to overshadow anybody, nor do I want to. I just want to take care of these kids and do the best for them.
Well, and creating that legacy, continuing that legacy, I think is important.
Well, yeah, trying to do the program right, trying to do Coach Schaefer right. Yeah. Obviously for him being here so long. So, that's kind of what we're trying to continue to build on.
I love that. So yeah, Three final questions for you. Question before you get back to practice here. I know the guys are rounding up. Thank you so much for your time today. Question number one is, I've noticed that with every coach that we talk about on Coach's Corner, there's always a tree that they have learned from. There's branches, there's a trunk, and then there's branches where the coaches have picked up things from other coaches. Sometimes you're able to invent the wheel yourself as a coach, but who are some of the coaches in your life that you that are actually speaking through you even today when you're on third base and you're waving them around, telling them to hold in the dugout, getting them pumped up for the next inning when they're coming up at the bat? Who are those voices? Who are those coaches that influenced you and impact you the most and your coaching style today?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's just me. It's just me. I've taken nothing from no one. It's just me. That might sound strange, but it's just me. I can't give you a better answer. It's just me.
Amazing.
That's just who I am.
Then how do you continue learning or continue growing? Then what's the main tool that you use in order to help as the game evolves, as these the different generations have come through, even over the course of your time here?
So I do have other coaches that I do focus with and talk to and learn from, and those are some of the guys that I branch off out of Tucson, and and then obviously this coaching staff that I have here, right? We feed off of each other, and that's kind of where the learning curve comes from a little bit, because sometimes you might think you have all the answers, but you don't. That's why you have a coaching staff. So it's just about listening to your other coaches, and then, like I said, looking at other programs of other coaches that I've been around, kind of learning off of that too, kind of like, hey, what can I incorporate that could be better for our club and stuff like that. So that's kind of where that comes from. But all the other stuff it's just me.
I love that. I think that's incredible. I've talked to dozens of coaches and never had that answer before. All right, question number 2 of the final 3. Wow, we did talk about and know that a lot of these players here in this dugout, 3 or 4 at least right now, will be going on to play at that next level. Ultimately, at some point, our sports careers come to an end. But what is something that you are able to instill in these players that the game of baseball has to offer that will be able to help them no matter where they go in life, no matter what they do in life? What are some of those tangible aspects of this particular sport that will help them succeed wherever they go and whatever they do?
So that's the great thing about this particular sport. I mean, all sports, right? You can find something in it, but baseball itself, adversity. You're going to face the most adversity in this game right here, right? You get a chance to play this game at a 70% failure rate, right?
That is amazing.
What other sport can you, what other coach in another sport will say, hey, you can fail 70% of the time and you're going to be in the starting lineup? It's not going to happen.
No.
You're going to find the bench somewhere, right? Which this sport is a little bit different. It's very unique. And so adversity, and that's what I preach to them every day, is how they can take this right here as a learning curve into life, right? Because it's going to teach you that you can fail, but you can still be successful. And you just have to find that adversity. There's going to be adversity in life through challenges of maybe not having enough money, maybe losing a family member, maybe losing a job. You know, you have to find that adversity and find out how to get through it. And this game will teach you that. And that's what I love about this game. So that's the biggest takeaway that I try to teach these boys all the time. So
beautifully worded. Before I get to my final question, talk about this season. We're still early in the season, even though we're 10 games in. What is the outlook, and what are we seeing for the rest of this year?
Well, I mean, the outlook is positive. We got a few things that we got to work on. We haven't been able to close out a few games. That's kind of something we're working on today on the field. Some minor things against top teams. We've been right there. We just haven't been able to close the gap yet. But we're right there. So that's a positive. You know, and even the negative on it is we're right there. We just, again, it's both a positive and a negative. And I think we're going to be okay when the season's set and over. We've played probably what I would say is 2 top 10 teams within 5A so far.
Yeah.
And we have been right there. And I think those guys are going to be, you know, highly ranked. I don't know where we'll end up, but the bottom line is I know we'll be able to play with them should the time come. And you know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that's the other thing that I preach to the boys. So as long as we can maintain that, I think we're going to be okay throughout the season.
Well, you're off to a great start so far, and that will continue. It is finally time for the last question to Buena boys baseball coach, Tommy Fernandez. I ask this to all of our coaches on Coach's Corner. It is the final question that I get to ask them. What is your all-time favorite sports movie?
Ooh. I probably got to go with Field of Dreams.
Oh, my goodness. What is it about that movie that just gets you?
James Earl Jones, you know, I mean, that voice, you know, if you build it, they will come, you know, and just, I love that old school when they come through that cornstalk right there, you know. It's just, it's very unique. It's baseball in itself, you know. You got those high knicker pants. Yeah, you know, it's just baseball. I just love it. It's a loving game for me. There's no better passion than baseball. just can't get enough of it. And I'm just glad we're in baseball season.
Well, and you are building the field of dreams here for these young student athletes here on this field at Coppola Field every home game. It is Coach Tommy Fernandez of the Buena High School boys baseball team, and he is our latest episode of Coach's Corner, brought to you by the Ed Morse Automotive Group, Sierra Vista, and Cochise County, backed by Morse. Coach, when is the next home game for people who want to stop by and see you?
Next home game is against Sunnyside on Friday at 4 p.m. here. And hopefully we can come out with a win on that one. We got another tough game. And like I said, Sunnyside's always been a tough opponent for us. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, if you build it, we know that the people will come, and you've been
it was a good turnout yesterday, and
yeah.
I'm hoping we kind of get that turnout every single game as the weather gets a little bit warmer and there's less wind. I
didn't even notice. I didn't notice there was wind out here today. But.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it'll be another good turnout on Friday.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. I know you got to get back to practice here, but for giving us this time today, letting us get to know you a little bit more. We know that the whole audience here at the Cool F Empire is very glad to get to know you. And here's what you need to do, Cool F Empire. Please do us a favor. Share this video around. Tag all your baseball-loving friends and family, and let us know what your favorite all-time sports movie is in the comments section as that is scrolling along. Is it Field of Dreams? And why is that the exact right answer? I say that is the right answer for the baseball coach. Tommy Fernandez, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Coach's Corner, brought to you by the Ed Morse Automotive Group, Sierra Vista, and Cochise County, backed by Morse. If you know someone who puts the coach in Cochise County, just like Coach Tommy does, you let us know who they are. We want to go and talk to them, whether it's baseball, whether it's softball, all the other sports that are going on in this spring season here in high school across Cochise County. You let us know who they are, and we will go talk to them. Have a great day, everybody, and let's play ball.
Thank
Go
you.
Colts.
All right, thank you, man.